Welcome back to my video. I hope you enjoyed today's story. The decisions we make can lead us down paths from which there is no return. This story is about one such moment. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date. Let's start with one quiet evening in their apartment. Lucas was sitting on the sofa, his eyes glued to the TV screen. Sophia walked over to him. She was already getting ready for the evening out. She said softly, "You should go to bed early. I have something to do tonight." Lucas raised his head. His eyes met Sophia's, who was standing there, carefully made up. Her hair was curled slightly, and her outfit was striking. A short skirt and an off-the-shoulder top that exuded charm, along with a sparkling handbag slung over her shoulder. He looked at her, surprised. The change in her appearance seemed to affect him deeply. "What do you need to dress like this for?" he asked, his voice low and curious with a hint of concern. Sophia hesitated for a moment, then smiled. "It was just a colleague's celebration party. Nothing much," she said calmly, but Lucas sensed a hint of awkwardness in the way she spoke. He tried to suppress the turmoil in his heart. "Why didn't you tell me in advance?" he asked, his voice calm but with a hint of frustration. "Sorry, this party was so sudden that I didn't have time to tell you in advance," Sophia replied, her voice a little hesitant. Lucas was silent for a moment, his eyes still on Sophia. He sensed something was wrong. "I won't let you dress like this to go to a party," he said firmly. "You're married, Lucas," he said, his voice low but firm. Sophia stopped, turned to look at Lucas, her eyes surprised and a little annoyed. "I don't think we need to control each other to that extent. This is just a small party between colleagues, nothing important," she replied, her voice calm and slightly challenging. "But you can't control every little thing like this. I know what I'm doing, and I won't do anything wrong to you. You're my wife, so why do you say I don't need to worry and don't need to control you?" Lucas said, his voice low and mixed with disappointment and hurt. Sophia looked at Lucas, her eyes softening a bit but still full of determination. "You know, it's not because I want to control you. It's because I love you and I don't want you to be misunderstood or get into trouble. If you dress like this, I won't let you go anymore," Lucas said, his voice hard, clearly showing his frustration and dissatisfaction. Sophia said she was comfortable with him and that he had the freedom to do what he wanted. She needed space to be free. Lucas repeated himself, sounding disappointed and disbelieving. He said he wasn't going to tell her anything more and that he was leaving. He'd tell her when he got back. Sophia turned her back and walked towards the door, but Lucas stood up from his chair. His voice was cold and determined. He said that if she walked out that door, they'd be over. He didn't accept it. Sophia stopped, her hand gripping the doorknob, her shoulders shaking slightly. She didn't turn around. Lucas stood there in heavy silence. He continued, his voice becoming more painful. "I gave you all my love and trust, but if you leave like this, it means you've chosen a different path. If you walk out the door tonight, I'm not sure if we can ever get back together again." Sophia remained silent for a few seconds. Then she quietly walked through the door, ignoring what Lucas had just said. The door closed behind her, bringing with it a heavy silence. Lucas's heart froze. He stood there motionless, unable to. Lucas was sure that Sophia had ignored his warning. The room felt even emptier than before, and he felt a sense of loss. He stared at the closed door, thinking about the warnings he had uttered, but now they seemed meaningless. Sophia had chosen her path, and he realized that they might have reached a point of no return. She'd really gone, he whispered to himself. The disappointment and pain were overwhelming, and he couldn't sleep that night, thoughts and worries swirling around him. Lucas knew that their lives had changed the moment Sophia walked through the door. She had chosen friends and fun over their marriage. He couldn't live like this anymore. He knew he had no choice. He had to divorce her. Sophia chose her own path, and he couldn't continue a relationship where only one side tried. She left him. She left the marriage they had built together for the past 7 years. Divorce is the only way to free both of them. Lucas had packed Sophia's things and put them all in a suitcase right outside the door. It was getting late, almost dawn, but Lucas was still sitting there, his eyes staring blankly at the empty space of their apartment. He couldn't sleep, haunted by thoughts of his broken marriage. When Sophia finally got home, her steps were staggering in the dark. Her hair was messy and she smelled strongly of alcohol. She didn't expect Lucas to still be there waiting for her. Lucas was still standing in front of the door, and Sophia's eyes widened in surprise. "You're still here?" she stuttered, trying to stay calm. Lucas didn't say anything, just looked at her with eyes full of disappointment and fatigue. "I've been waiting for you to come back to get your things," he said. "I've already helped you pack everything. Take it and get out of my house." His voice was low but firm, devoid of any emotion. The words hit her hard. "I'm sorry, Lucas. I didn't mean to go this far. I didn't want to lose you." To start divorce proceedings were over, Lucas. "No, I don't want to divorce." "I don't want to lose you," Sophia cried, her voice trembling. "Give me a chance to make things right. I promise to be a good wife to you. I won't do it again." But Lucas just stood still. His eyes were cold and determined. "Go away. There's no chance." His voice was emotionless. As if he had decided long ago. With that, Lucas slammed the door, leaving Sophia collapsed in front of the house, tears streaming down her face. She sobbed regret, and Sophia was filled with despair, but it was too late to save the marriage. She had once considered that there might be forgiveness or salvation, but Lucas said his voice was cold and decisive. Sophia understood that everything was over and there was no way back. She stood up, her legs feeling heavy as if they were chained, and turned around. Each step was slow, as if she were carrying regret and despair. She didn't know where to go. Lucas met with a lawyer and went through the divorce proceedings. Finally, they faced each other in the lawyer's office. Sophia tried to explain, her eyes filled with regret. She wanted to get back with Lucas. She pleaded, "Please give me another chance, I will change." But Lucas remained firm in his decision. His eyes were cold and without hesitation. He knew there was no salvation but to sign the divorce papers. At that moment, silence filled the air. A chapter of their lives had officially closed. There was no hope of returning. Sophia bowed her head, her heart heavy. Lucas left, closing the past and opening a new future for both of them.